Simon took to Instagram and made this post. He says, disc golf should embrace being easier than golf. This debate has been going on for ages. The scoring is too easy. It makes our sport look bad. Too easy if players shoot double digits under par. People won't take us seriously with scores so low. I disagree. Low scores are not what are holding us back. We're trying to make our scoring tougher by adding OB, making crazy greens, and often players get punished really hard for small mistakes. Gimmicky greens and gimmicky fairways lead to too much randomness in our game. That's what makes us look bad. And all for the sake of trying to get us to score closer to golf scores. How about we just accept that disc golf is easier? We start designing challenging and fair courses, and players will shoot 10 to 16 under par. As long as putting is as easy it is, these scores should be the norm, in my opinion. Is bowling going to change their game because the pros get a strike almost every time? No. Is darts going to make the field smaller because the pros almost never miss? No. Give us a smaller target to aim for. Give us a smaller or better target to aim for, or let's embrace the fact that disc golf is not like golf. Ooh, a lot to unpack here. So let's kind of break it down. Do you think the first part he talks about is the idea that scoring is too easy and it kind of makes the sport look bad? Do you agree with those people that say that, or do you agree with Simon that that is not the issue that we should be concerned with?
I do think you have to be concerned with scoring super low on a regular basis, because at some point, like, you have to realize, like, we are a relatively new sport and it's still changing and evolving, and people are continuing to push different limits. So if when people are shooting 16 down now, I feel like, you're not pushing people to get any better. So I do think courses being too easy is an issue, and I feel like it like would prevent the next generation from pushing the boundary even farther. And I mean, like, you look at golf, and like even golf is like changed. Like courses aren't the same now as they were whatever 100 years ago. So
Mhm.
I think we do have to be aware of it. I don't see it as, like, when it happens as it being an issue. I think it's just like, okay, this is happening. This course either needs to change or we need to move on.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I agree with him in this take where he's saying, making greens super gimmicky or making fairways super gimmicky to add the randomness to the game. I think that is a bad look. It's the
Yeah.
same thing as I've always said is like when we play in the woods and you have trees 350 feet down the fairway in the fairway, that also adds the randomness to disc golf of where you're not rewarding good shots and you're making it to where some people's good shots get punished. So those things I'm not a fan of by any means. But I'm with you. I think twofold. One, it was interesting that the two sports that he listed bowling and darts. I would say both those sports are pretty niche, and neither one of them, I could be wrong, but neither one of them has really probably gained all that much attraction or a following over the years. Because what can you do with those sports, right? Bowling, for example, they've done some things where like lanes are different, so the oil patterns are different from one lane to the next. But
Yeah.
that's something as a viewer is very hard for me to kind of get any sort of idea of what that actually is. And I think that actually holds back the sports. I've always said I don't think disc golf going towards the dart realm of where guys are just stepping up and just executing. I don't think that's the right way. The one thing that disc golf has that bowling and darts don't have is strategy, game management, decision making. There really isn't that much in darts and bowling. It's more of like this is the right thing to do. Can you execute it? And I know there's
Yep.
gonna be some darts and bowling people and being like, oh, you don't know what I'm talking. For the most part, that is kind of how it is. It's can you execute when the pressure is on? And I feel like disc golf, the part that really attracts me is the decision making. What is Calvin going to do here? versus if you make it to where it's just cut and dry, this is what you need to do, who can execute it the best. I think we miss a huge part there.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think, yeah, I mean, I think that's just part of golf or any sport that's a derivative or you know came from golf. Decision making is pretty important, and honestly, like it kind of ties back into some course design sometimes. And when I look at courses I don't like, it's because there is really no decision to be made. It's just like it's more like darts. You either do it or you execute or you don't. And like we see some courses like that where it's like you don't execute, you go to the drop zone, and it's like you don't execute from
Yeah.
the drop zone, you go to the next drop zone, and that starts to get more towards the darts realm. I feel like, and yeah, I don't think that's very fun because there is no choices to be made. Everyone's trying to do the exact same thing, and it's just completely execution at that point, and no one can kind of approach a course in their own way.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the other thing that goes into me like going against this idea of shooting 10 to 16 under par, if I was trying to beat you, let's say with me and you had a bet, and I was trying to do everything I could to beat you, I would take you on a course that was easy. I wouldn't
Yeah,
go to a hard course. I would go to a course where there might be one or two holes that I think I might not birdie, but the other 16 I'm birdieing every single time. Because in that course, now I only have to beat you on one or two holes. And there's a chance for me to beat you on one or two holes
yeah,
versus me trying to beat you on 18 holes. The more holes that add in the variability, the difficulty, the less likely I have at beating you. And so when you end up playing these courses and these courses that we shoot 10 to 16 under par, when you end up playing these courses that have two or three holes that the majority of the top field are birding, you now are limiting the number of holes to be able to like separate yourself from the field.
yeah,
So that's where it's like, I don't think we should be going towards the direction of easy just to be easy. But we
yeah,
also shouldn't be going in the direction of hard to be hard. It needs to be fair. So I agree with him on that. I'm not for the gimmicky greens. I'm not for the gimmicky fairways. I'm not for any of that. But we got to find a way to make courses where people that are throwing well, people that are putting well, score well, and people that aren't are not scoring well.
yeah, yeah. I definitely agree with that. And that's easier said than done. But
Yes.
and I do think sometimes we know we're gonna as courses are evolving, there's gonna be things that maybe we're too hard, and that's okay. Well, we figure that out, and you fix it for the next year. But I don't think a lot of courses aren't just like completely tearing themselves up and trying a completely new layout the next year. It's like there might be two or three changes, and you kind of see what was good, what was bad, and maybe you change something back or you make a few more the next year. So I don't know. I think it's all kind of a slow progression, but we are slowly figuring out what's working and what's not, and it's also a balance of figuring out what's working now. Is it going to work in 5 years, or is it not? Like, are we going to be that much better? So as a hole that's too hard now, you're just going to be a standard hole,
Yeah,
in
no, exactly.
2030.
And I guess, maybe I can try to talk to Simon a little bit more about what his thoughts are on this because it is always interesting when good players have this thought, right? Like when good players are like, no, we should keep going this direction of easy. I feel like you want the opposite. I think you want to make it as hard as possible because that benefits you more. You the players that are lower in the field, they want courses to be super easy because there's just less scoring separation. So maybe I can chat with him and get a little more thoughts on that. But always going to be an interesting thing when we come to what scores are because there's also a lot of people that love just seeing 16 under, and then there's a bunch of people that love seeing like 2, 4, 5 under be a good round. So
Yeah.
yeah, it'll be interesting.